A very good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to the Singapore International Cyber Week 2025 Women in Cyber. My name is Juliana Yao, and I'm delighted to be your host for this event. So this year, we do have something truly special that's lined up for you at our SICW Women in Cyber event. We're hosting an Ask Me Anything session that promises to be both inspiring as well as insightful. We have brought together truly accomplished women from both government and industry for what I know will be a very engaging session ahead based on the questions that you've submitted during our registration so far. So throughout this session later on, you will be able to gain first-hand insights from experts who are working across a variety of roles, from industry practitioners to leaders to policymakers. Before we commence, please do note that there will be a 15-minute live Q&A session that is scheduled for later in the program. You may submit your questions to our distinguished panelists in two different ways. Firstly, you can use your smartphones to scan the QR code that is currently displayed on the screens for Slido. Alternatively, we can also go the old school route, and you can raise your hands for our microphones that will be present during the session. I do encourage you to consider your question throughout today's session and to take advantage of either submission methods to engage with our esteemed speakers. But with all that out of the way, it is now time for me to introduce our moderator for the day. It would be Dr. Anuradha Rao, founder of CyberCognizant. Dr. Rao, can I invite you up on stage, please? Let us also now welcome our panelists, Ms. April Chin, co-CEO of Rosaro, Ms. Beatrice Silveira, Global Security APAC Head at Novartis, Ms. Helen Pop, Ambassador at Large for Cyber Diplomacy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Estonia, Ms. Lok Hui Yi, Head of Vulnerability Management at TikTok, and last but not least, Ms. Charmaine Tan, Chief Growth Officer at Sakuro. Now that we do have all of our speakers as well as moderator on stage, handing it over to you, Dr. Rao.
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to what I know is a very highly anticipated session. So this year's Women in Cyber, it's always a hit, and this year is going to be, I feel, an even more inspiring session because we have a brand new Ask Me Anything format. And what we have today is an amazing panel of panelists, amazing set of panelists. And before I introduce them, I'm just going to briefly introduce myself. My name's Dr. Anu Rao. I'm a cyber awareness speaker and consultant. I work in the area of cybersecurity, cyber safety, and cyber well-being, because I believe that all three are really important for us to have very empowering online experiences. And as an advocate for DEI in cyber, I'm really honored to moderate this session today, and thank you to CSA for having me here. For our panelists, we have a really interesting set of questions, and they show us that they have experience in a range of sectors. It's social work, it's government, it's industry, and it's law enforcement. And seeing their experience made me realize that with cyber, you can have a variety of roles, and it actually provides people in cybersecurity, people that want to join, a whole variety of opportunities if you know where to look. So today, where we look is at this panel, and I'm going to kickstart the session by asking a little icebreaker question to get us in the mood, just to keep it a little fun and light. If you could describe your journey into cybersecurity in one word, what would it be? And if you could briefly explain why you chose that word. Start with you, April.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Very nice to be here with you. My one word will be governance, from the perspective of doing the right thing in order to do something well. And that really is the genesis of my whole journey into cybersecurity and AI security.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. So my word is adventure. It's full of challenges, but really worthy.
Hello, everyone. I think my word would be stimulating. Although a career diplomat, my focus has been on cyber issues for more than 10 years now. And one thing is for sure, it's impossible to get bored when in this field.
Okay, hi. So my word will be overworked. Because when I decided to join cybersecurity, so prior to that I was a developer, then everybody I knew in cybersecurity were making a lot of money and they were very slack, so they were not doing any work. So I was like, yeah, I should go to cybersecurity and I should be slack like them. But unfortunately that's not the case, so overworked.
I love how real this panel is getting. For me, my word will be colorful. Yeah, because for those who know me in Australia, like they know me more for maybe my work with the business, with understanding different personalities and able to interact and just communicate with them, more understanding the human behavior. At the same time, for those who don't know, I actually studied computer engineering, graduated in NTU many years ago in Singapore before moving to Australia. And I never knew that combination of computer engineering, business, human behavior can combine together to land me what I'm doing right now today. So,
excellent. Thank you, everyone. So a lot of interesting words. Let me see if my memory serves me right. Governance, adventure, stimulating, overwork, and Charmaine, colorful. Okay, I'm going to just add to that to say that my word would be accidental. So I think a lot of us end up here accidentally, but it's, that's the best surprise of all, when you land up where you least expect it and you like it. So I'm going to move to the more personalized questions, and we've had, with all the registrations, 100 plus registrations, we've had 100 plus questions that came to us for the panelists. So just managed to curate some of them, and I hope that later the rest of you will ask questions live, but I'm going to start with Helen, who's traveled the furthest to get to us all the way from Estonia. So Helen, thank you for being here and congratulations on your recent appointment. You have had extensive experience at governance and with government at the national and international level. So my question for you is going to be about leadership. And in cyber or other male-dominated industries, leadership can often tend to be male-dominated or male-centric. And do you feel that women can tend to overcompensate in this area and move in that direction in a leadership role?
Yes, thank you very much. And I very much sign off your word as well, the accidental. I'm in that team as well. But I've stayed for many reasons. Well, when it comes to this question, for me, this question has several layers. For me, it's more about power and how women actually use their power. And when I say power, I'm not talking about your personal power as such, but the power of your office and how far have you actually come. I believe that if you know that and use that, that matters more than the fact that you're a woman. And let's be honest, women, including myself, have a strange relationship with power. It doesn't mean that we are necessarily afraid of it, but we seem more comfortable with, let's say, more with the informal power than the institutional power. And we have all seen those studies, I believe, that men will apply for a job when they have, 50-60% of the quality of the post. Women will only go for a post when they feel that they are 100% there. So women are often shy from self-advocating and continue to deny their capabilities. So this is a whole other topic why it is like that. But maybe just to give you an example, not too long ago, I was part of the panel
Hello?
I'm not taking that personally, but yes, not too long ago, I was part of the panel that was assigned to recruit new diplomats. And we ask every applicant the same question: where do you see yourself in 10 years? And have to say, all male applicants put forward some impressive positions: ambassador to EU, ambassador to US. And sadly, 90% of women applicants said that I would love to be a political diplomat in London. I would like to be cultural attaché in Turkey. I think it was only one or two who were brave enough to say that, by the way, I'm going to be the next ambassador to France or something like that. And I don't really remember if I was asked the same question when I applied 17 years ago, but I'm 100% sure that I would have not dared to say that one day I'm going to be the cyber ambassador, leaving aside the fact that the position as such didn't exist, but nevertheless. And nevertheless, the field of diplomacy is very much male-dominated. So to some extent, it is a challenge, but it's also the way you look at it. And one thing that has made, and something I really want to put forward here as well, something that has made a huge difference in my life is having female role models. I think this is extremely, extremely important. And there are several lessons that I've learned from them that I try to take forward as well, but maybe we'll come back to that a little bit later on. Before I'm going to be cut off again, I will stop here.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Helen. I'll move to April, because April, you have a range of experiences, in government and social work before your current role. And I worked in the nonprofit space myself before academia, so this is an important question for me as well. How do we get people and women to thrive in cybersecurity? Because a lot of questions were about how women feel that they are working hard and yet they don't get the recognition or the rewards that they are due. So what can they do in these situations?
Yes, and I think that's probably a question that also applies to many other sectors. And I think adding on to what Helen said, I think sometimes as women, maybe we struggle with imposter syndrome or desiring a bit more certainty and confidence before we are willing to step up, right? And I think over here, it's important to remember that whichever role you take, you will always need to be growing into it. And that's a good thing, because that's, I do believe, the learning mindset that we will need to have more of, especially as AI capabilities increase, right? And if we see it from that perspective that everyone is always growing into the role, then we shouldn't be afraid to articulate very clearly what we're already good at, where we are already improving, and where there could still be room for improvement. And that's a conversation to be had, I would say, regularly with whoever it is that is reviewing your performance. Another, I guess, common mistake, if I may say, is we leave that conversation to only maybe once a year during performance appraisal or when, conversations around promotion arise. But I think it's very important to always have at the top of mind amongst your stakeholders what your contributions are.
Right, thank you. Beatrice, I'm going to move on to ask you a question in terms of transitioning into a new role, because you worked at Interpol for a long time before you moved into the corporate world. And so what would your advice be for someone to successfully transition into cybersecurity? And what skills are necessary for this transition, especially if they've come from a non-technical role?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started even before Interpol. So I was police commander in Brazil almost 20 years ago. And I was suffering in a small town, very violent. And one day I saw the police commander, the chief, and I told him, please bring me to the main city. I will be your best police commander, but I need to go because I just had my first baby, I have 4. And I was suffering, really suffering 24 hours without seeing her. So I begged him. And he said, understand, oh, I have in the paper this unit against cybercrime, because in Brazil, my state is one of the top in high numbers of cybercrime. And I said, done, just bring me. I had zero cyber skills, right? But then I needed to understand how a malware worked so I could do the reverse engineering and arrest the hackers. I need to understand about network, about protocols, because I made a promise to him that I would be his best police commander. And then after a few years, we arrested more than 500 cyber criminals all over the country. And my unit, from unit, became a division, and then became one of the references in my country. And how did we do this? When you have first self-awareness, I knew what I didn't know. Second, you need to have grit. You need to know what you want, because the challenge times will be there. And you need to understand that, okay, that's just a phase and you can go over. And third, you need to be able to show your passion, so people believe you. So for example, in my transition to private sector, actually first for Interpol, my former boss is here. He helped me a lot because he trusts my passion. Then my transition from private sector, I have other two men who helped me because they trust that my cybercrime skills, because believe, cybercrime is after the crime happened, is the experience I had for 17 years. Cyber defense in a bank is before the crime happened, so it's a different set of skill sets, right? And they trust that I could really use all my passion and my ability to learn, and of course humility to know that you need help. And they trust me, they gave me opportunity, so thank you for coming and again for supporting me. I'm very happy to have you here.
Great, thank you, Beatrice. It's, you've spoken about passion and grit and the importance of allies and mentors in us moving forward. And so that brings me to my next question to Charmaine, which is one of your passion areas is community building and mentorship. And a lot of the questions we got were from women who said that they're struggling to find the right support circles, and especially younger women, and what can they do?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's very important to have mentors in life because we need like role models, and they can be very crucial to your development in different paths of careers you might take. Because first of all, they would show you what is possible, but at the same time, they can also help you. We talk about imposter syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. They can help you show you that it's possible to believe that you have a seat at the table, that you actually belong in that room. And I think we just need sometimes that encouragement. People who believe in you, they are willing to also spend time to take you under their wings. They show you how they have navigated different challenges, especially working with different stakeholders, or even like maybe dealing with politics in your organization. All this takes a lot of different skills, and everyone comes in at different levels of experience. So I think that's crucial. Another thing is that you don't necessarily need to just rely on a professional mentorship program. That is great, but you don't have to wait for that. You can have access to these opportunities through events like this. Sometimes I realize the best mentorship that has taken place is through people that have met each other at events like this, or there's a lot of great associations out there, ISACA, ISC Square, AISP, Women in Tech, meetups, there's so many. I think there's one big advocate for that, Jenny over there. I see her in the audience. Yeah, so looking for people like that, just asking the question of like, where should I get plugged in? Maybe sharing a bit about your journey as well, and they can direct you to the right places will be great. But I just also want to call out because even in cyber risk meetups, when I was running like mentorship programs, like trying to bring men and women together as mentors for the mentees, what I realized also there's two spectrum. So I have to be real about this, right? There are people that are very willing to give back and give their time because they are driven by purpose. But there's also those that, because they have done it the hard way, they are a little bit more reluctant to give it up so easily. And I realized we really need to be more of the first, where, we want to bring everybody along with us as we rise together. We help you climb as well. So I think we need more, and we are seeing more of that come to pass, which is great. And lastly, I would say for the mentees, right? let's also have an attitude of gratitude, because I realized that what motivates the mentors is, even though maybe they are not driven by recognition or titles, right? Because they have already done it all. But it's nice, it's just a human nature when you actually express back as well as appreciation and also maybe giving them a shout out. I've seen those mentors get more encouraged, and there's that longevity where they are driven to continue mentor even more people. And then we drive that cycle, because then the mentees give back too. And that's how we make it sustainable, like the cycle of sustainable support cycle, where we can give back to the next generation. So yeah, that's my take.
Okay, thank you, Shamin. Very practical suggestions. And for all of you who may not know, we have a networking session after this panel, and that's the opportunity to meet and learn from each other, find your mentors, find your mentees, and really take charge of every opportunity that comes to you, whether it's accidental or otherwise as well. Okay, I move to Hui Yi. And Hui Yi, you are passionate about building and leveraging tech skills in cyber. So the question for you is, what skills, both technical and social, and what qualities should women in cyber, especially as they move towards leadership roles, be focusing on developing? And as I mentioned earlier, your LinkedIn profile has potatoes. What are those potatoes about?
Okay, so if anybody who really knows me, right, I talk a lot of random stuff on LinkedIn. I'm not one of those, and I don't glamour shot my LinkedIn, I just say whatever I think on LinkedIn. And I really like potatoes, especially unsalted potato chips, because that's the pure, unadulterated flavor of potato chips. You cannot buy those in Singapore. My colleagues from Seattle buy it and they bring it to Singapore for me. Yeah, but that's partially why I like potatoes. And also back then when I was leading the red team, I was thinking a potato is this brown, nondescript vegetable that's hiding in the ground. So this is what you want as a red team, to be lurking underneath. Then when it is time, you just come out, and then you just catch the blue team or anyone unaware. So I thought the potato, shapes describes it very well.
Right, excellent. I was really curious how it ties into cybersecurity, so thanks for that. And the main question is about the skills.
Okay, yes. Oh, sorry, I'm super nervous. Okay, so cybersecurity is a very vast field. So, but since you're asking me this question, I assume this is more on the technical side of things. So, I can only speak really for offensive and defensive aspects of cybersecurity, because that's what I've been dealing with. So, let's talk about the technical side of things first. So, the bottom line up front is certs actually don't really matter, especially the MCQ types, so the multiple choice ones. So if you are farming certs, right, please don't farm those kind of certs. We will look down on you. Yes, so you should go for the hands-on certs. Okay, I'm not going to recommend any certs here, maybe not so nice, but you should look for those hands-on, really technical certs, if that is the direction you want to go in. And so certs, when it is hands-on, it just shows you that you can do the thing, but it doesn't actually really show that you can solve the problem that is posed to you also. So other than doing certs, I would encourage you to build programming skills, learning how to code and understanding APIs, the security behind it, and also architecture design. Because once you understand it, that makes you a better penetration tester if you are, in the offensive mindset. So for example, let's say, we know JavaScript is client rendered, it's client-sided rendering. So let's say if I ask you, if a server is running Chrome that runs that website that does client-sided rendering, is it still client-sided or is it server? It's a server that's running it, so maybe it's the server. So this question actually trips up a lot of people if you don't have the proper concepts on how, where the code is executed on. And let's see. So for the defensive side, this knowledge also helps you when you are trying to investigate an incident. So let's say you're very familiar with using like Linux, Windows, where's a process tree, how suspicious process trees might look like, or malicious commands. So the moment you see it, the moment you see an alert or you investigate in incidents, you can immediately cut out the crafts. What is the useless information, and where is the thing that you want to focus on. Okay, so that's for the technical side. Okay, for the social side, actually I think a lot of people, a lot of the ladies here, we all kind of like echo the same sentiments, which is confidence and also assertiveness. They are very key to succeeding in the field. Let's see, what must I say? Yes, so last time, I had a senpai, a senior. Last time when there was a small potato, I also didn't dare to say anything. I was hiding in the corner all the time. Then my senior was saying, if you don't express your opinions, you don't matter. So because nobody will know you are there actually. So that's why you need to come out and you need to say. But I know that a lot of ladies, especially me also, we like to self-doubt, overthink. We all want to come out looking polished like in the movies. But it's always never like that. So just go ahead and just do it. And so one thing I like to tell my guys is, so if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it make a sound? So that's why if you do something good, you really need to be the one to self-advocate for yourself. So sometimes you have good bosses, good colleagues who will do that, but you cannot rely on them also. It's a privilege and not an entitlement. So you need to go out there and then you advertise by yourself, I did this good stuff. Yeah. Then, let me see, So a lot of people will think, I don't have any confidence. Then how do I get that confidence? But you just got to start going. The saying "fake it and you can make it," right? Is actually quite true. So you just start, and then with success, your confidence will slowly increase. Let's see, still got what?
Yeah, thank you, Hui. I think that's great for now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes, thank you so much, because I want to you've said so many good points. You said so many good points, so I want to quickly recap them. So we're talking about the technical skills, which I'm sure the technical people understood. That's not my domain, so I assume you understood what Hui is telling you. In terms of the social skills, which is my area, you're right, what all the panelists said, it's really about how do we communicate, what kind of communication we bring both verbally and with our body language in terms of how do we want people to perceive us. And the fake it till you make it, as a business owner myself, I changed to think fake it till you are it, till you believe you are it, because the moment you keep believing, you will be that. So that's why I thought I wanted to stop you there, because I wanted to add that point onto what you said. So thank you so much. We have time for another quicker round of questions, and this time I'll start with Beatrice. Beatrice, you mentioned that you have 4 kids, and how old are they?
17, doing all levels today. Then I have 13, 11, and 8.
Oh, excellent. I have 2 girls as well. They're 18 and 13, so I guess around the same age. And a lot of the questions that came were, how do women balance all they're doing at work and all they have going on at home with their well-being? So I thought you'd be the right person to answer that.
Thank you. So first thing, we need to define what's well-being for you. For me, for example, is going to my jiu-jitsu class, fighting, and get the whole body ache. That's for me, having time for that's well-being. So first thing, you need to define what's well-being for you and what is acceptable for you. Because something that I can tell you from my 20 years of experience is that a woman can have everything, but many phases of your life not at the same time. Many times we need to sacrifice things. For example, I respect your opinion, but I love certifications. I like, they help me to systematize the knowledge in my head. So when I was studying, for example, for CISSP, for many 3-4 months, I barely saw my kids, but I had the goal. Or when I was writing my book, for many times I couldn't do maybe the best of my work, or be the best mom I could be, but I had a goal. And for me, the well-being was achieving that goal, because I knew I could do better and have better opportunities for my kids. So please understand, you can have everything, but not at the same time. So you need to make wise choices. and have this as your motto, because sometimes when things are hard, you remember, no, I'm doing this because of that, and this is why I'm doing. Of course, if it goes below your threshold for well-being, then stop, rethink, reset, and restart. It's always nice to restart. I have done this many times in my life, and if you believe, you can do it.
That's amazing. I love that, the fact that if we change our way of thinking to say, hey, we can have everything at different points of time, it puts less pressure on us and we know where to focus on what priority at what time. That's pretty much like cybersecurity as well, I think. Yeah, similar. I love that. Thank you. Helen, I'm going to go back to that same question on leadership. And I'm curious to know your own personal leadership style and what advice, if any, would you give to women, men, anyone that's looking to, move up the ladder, move up the ranks and make a real inspirational impact on their teams and countries in your case?
Sure. Well, in diplomacy, as in most fields, no person can accomplish anything alone. It's always a team effort. Everyone has a role, each person makes a contribution, and success is achieved because people work together towards a common goal. This has always been my starting point. And as I pointed out before, I've been really lucky to work with some of the great women in my past. And as I made a point earlier, put me on any panel on cyber issues, I will figure it out. Put me on a panel where I'm asked to give advice to other women, I really felt the heaviness, and I was thinking about it a little bit on my way here, as I had a relatively long flight. What are some of the lessons that I have learned from the women that I have worked before? And I came up with a few things. First of all, and this is something that I'm trying to follow as well. First of all, they all trusted their team. You were always free to express yourself, and they really encouraged debates. They never kept information, but shared that. Also shared, for example, different reading recommendations, which was very helpful, although put some pressure on you to make sure that you can keep up with the reading list, but it was very, very helpful. They all valued quality of written text. They all encourage their staff to write and publish. And I think this is a bit of a lost art these days, so again, something that I try to follow as well. And they all encouraged horizontal networking. When in cyber we say that the weakest link will take us down, then as women, and as diplomats all together, I believe that you are as strong as your network really is. So again, something that I try to encourage others to do. On a more personal note, I believe that you are most powerful when you are true to yourself, rather than trying to be someone else. My advice always is be authentic, but also embrace an unexpected life. You can't plan for everything. Things happen, often accidentally, as we pointed out earlier, and just go with the flow, but have that target in front of you. Thanks.
Excellent, thank you. Amazing points there as well in terms of teamwork, authenticity, openness, and just going with the flow. And that's useful for, I guess, everyone, everywhere, but especially at the higher levels that you're working, that comes into play on a daily basis. It's high stakes. Speaking of daily basis and high stakes, Shaveen, I'm going to ask you a question about the general cybersecurity landscape. How do we stay abreast of everything that's constantly changing? We talked about, this is not just particularly for women, but for anyone that wants to know, how should we know, where should we look, and how do we know what the solutions are when things are always changing?
Oh, it's a very real question and very tough too, because so much is happening every day, every hour, every second. It's really hard to keep on top of that. I'll give you an example as well. So I also run the CISO community in Australia and in Singapore. You combine that together, about maybe 300 CISOs. We just had our AGM in Melbourne last week or the week before. So we had a gathering, right? And the CISOs did a reflection about maybe just their last quarter. So we have a group chat and they will talk about a lot of things that they see in a group chat. So I imagine if you have a guest here, how busy the group chats gets every day, right? If you think about the day, do you think Monday is the busiest for them? Tuesday is the busiest? Have a quick guess. Wednesday, Thursday? Show of hands. Friday, do you think that's where they are busiest? Friday? Okay, it's actually Sunday.
Oh.
That's why the group was like 120 messages on average on Sunday, followed by Friday, which was about 70 over messages, and Saturday, which is 40 over messages. Wow. So everyone got a shock because they didn't realize how busy they were over the weekend, which is not healthy actually. So that shows that, and the topics is such a diverse range of topics, from AI to like new regulation to the upcoming risk, their concerns about it, even supply chain risk. It's so broad. And of course, different groups will get involved depending on what resonate with them. So it's something we have to be mindful of. Like I would say the three things, right? Yes, you can have your tech. I'll say tech team and your peers. So you can have the right tech that can give you a visibility over the right, things coming in, threat feeds, and help you decipher between the noise, but you also need your team, the right team that can give you the frontline insights. And the third thing that's really important though is your industry peers, because that's where you can soundboard with each other, of course in a trusted space, and really leverage on the different levels of experience, seniority, even the leadership lens of what they see in other organizations. And that comes in a community. So that's very, very important. And I would say you need to invest in those relationships. And you have to do it now, because you don't want to wait till later, when a crisis actually hits. We all know that's the last thing you want to do, to be in that situation, trying to find the right people you need to call and have the right relationships in place. You want to start now. And we all say cyber is a team sport, but it is so true, because we have to build have the right ecosystem around us so that when the unexpected happens, we are very prepared. So community is important.
Right, excellent. What did you say? Tech, team, and peers. Okay, excellent. April, we have to have the session with AI. We have to mention AI because that's what we do everywhere. And you are a firm believer of AI for good. So I got this very interesting audience question, which was, in an AI-powered, supposedly gender-agnostic world, how does technology impact women's roles, rights, and security? I know it's a big question, and I'm going to encourage you to make it brief.
Okay. I will talk about one specific area that I think does impact women and our perception and also our definition, right, of what it means to be a woman. And it's in a space of deepfake. By now, I believe all of us are pretty aware of both the positive potential of how we can use synthetic content in our work, but also the downsides. And what I'm observing is deepfake is fundamentally changing our perception of ourselves as well as how we relate to one another in our world. And that's okay until it reaches a point where the acceptance of what is fake becomes more important than what is true, right? Meaning that if it reaches a point where it's okay for a fake version of April to be here rather than the real April, then in that world, what is the value of being a woman and what is the definition of being a woman? I think these are some very fundamental questions that we have not fully grappled with. In the meantime, though, in the spirit of fun or bullying or entertainment, we are already creating a lot of generated content around different types of women, different narratives around womanhood. And I would say that as real women, we really should proactively articulate, right, what is unique to us, what are our strengths that we can offer, and not allow generated content to overtake how we view ourselves.
Right. Oh, that's an amazing point as well. And you're right, like this is such a huge question that one thing that you said impacts our image, reputation, and safety and security as well on a personal level. Thank you for that, April. We finally, back to you, which is, we're going to get right to the basics. And for anyone who may not yet really understand the benefits of having more women in cybersecurity, what's the one main thing that you would say women bring to cybersecurity roles?
I think this is men and women, we usually think and we observe many different things. So the diversity of thoughts is something that really, brings people together. And also when you have too much of one type of people, some type of people in the same team, then you start to have this group think where, people just, they generally only have like one idea. So back when I was in school, we had 15 guys to 3 girls. So the guys all generally went in that direction, and then the girls couldn't really try to change how the class, the ideas of the class or anything, and then we kind of fractured. So in fact, my tutor was saying that, this is the worst class she has ever taught because the gender imbalance was so bad. And then once you have a majority, then it becomes a little toxic also. So that's why I think what women can bring in is this kind of diversity. And also when you have when you're investigating incidents, so sometimes guys will be a bit more focused, right to the point. But sometimes there are things that you might want to consider, on the peripherals and whatnot. And then girls generally can multitask better, and then they can have a bit more non-linear thinking, so they can bring up new insights into an incident if it happens.
Right.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So diversity of thought, more different opinions and different skill sets that they bring, especially when they're looking at live incidents as well. Excellent, thank you all. That was amazing set of answers, and we have audience questions next. So I'm just going to kickstart the Q&A with a question that I see on the screen right now. And I guess anyone is free to answer it. I like this question. What have you observed as the silent barriers to women's leadership in cyber, the ones we don't talk about on panels? Who would like to? Charmaine, could I ask you to take this?
Oh, sorry. Because I was looking at the first question. I was like, I don't see it. Oh, maybe come back to me. I just saw the question.
Okay. The third one. Anyone? Okay, April, yes, please.
Kick us off. I'm not sure if this is a silent barrier or rather the way we've designed the system for career progression. I think in most organizations, it's still one that assumes relatively neat linear progress at a steady cadence, right? And the thing about being a woman is, if you do go through seasons in life, in marriage and parenting, for sure, right? It's never you're never going to go through life at that steady pace, as you mentioned, right? Maternity leave would be one obvious example, but also there will be times where children may need you more and so on. And I do think that until organizations, and in particular HR and organizational development practices, can rethink how to design this process of helping women to grow into their roles where life may bring pauses or what we perceive as stagnation, but to me it's just different seasons, different roles, different cadence, right? Until then sometimes it is a barrier for us as women to be able to grow while flourishing in our other roles in life.
Right.
I compliment. I also believe that is the right concept of what's leadership. Because sometimes you expect the woman to be aggressive or assertive, go for it, and I need my seat on the table, but not all women are like that. And then they will not have a seat at the table. So I think this is what is changing from when I started my career 20 years ago until now. I see that many companies now, they understand, also in the public sector. Because when I started the division against organized crime, they said I was looking like a Barbie. I shouldn't be there pretending I was fighting crime. So things are changing, and I'm so happy to see that's changing. And it's changing not only because we are together, but also because of the male allies and all the programs that we have out there. So let's always have in mind, if you are in a selection process, not everybody, especially women, is a leader that fits all the checks in the box, check the box, but also they can bring a lot of new value to the company, bring new perspectives.
Now, thank you. Yes, Shamin, go ahead.
Because while you were sharing, I just remember it is actually really true. I've spoken to women that actually there's a fear, a hidden fear, and they're very senior, like C-level women, right? And there's a fear of taking a step back or doing a break because they think they will be forgotten. And they say the industry moves so quickly that there won't be a space for them when they come back. But actually, I disagree because I've also seen many, many women that after that, when they came back, right, just be fearless. They have been fearless, they continue, and they're able to pick up where they last left off, but accelerate their journey in another different tangent because maybe that break really did them good. So that's something maybe we have to address that, wrong belief perhaps. And the last thing I just wanted to quickly add also is, we are very polite sometimes, maybe the less confident or less aggressive, like are more polite and they wait for their turn and their turn never comes because, it gets passed by or, other people are just jumping in a lot more aggressively at a discussion table. And then after that they think, oh, you don't really have anything to contribute. But this is where we have to fight with our maybe innate personality or when you're introvert to just really be courageous and speak. Because many a times I've kept quiet myself and then I had the idea in my head and then after that someone else speaks it and I'm like, oh, actually I had that idea and everybody was like, oh, that's such a great idea. So I think you just need to back yourself sometimes and just speak and you will learn from there too. So, yeah.
All right, now, excellent points. I want to say so much more, but we don't have time, so I will save my comments during the networking session. But we'll open it up to the audience because we have some time for live audience questions as well. And anyone has any questions for Helen and Hui, could just raise your hand? Yes, I see someone here. Do we have a mic? Or does she just shout? This is a way to, raise your voice.
Hello, thank you so much for the lovely panel. I'm Ritika Joshi and I'm a student studying computer science at NUS. So my question actually is a bit more technical related. So specifically to Ms. Lok, who is working in cybersecurity operations. So the question is, beyond AI-enabled cybersecurity tools and frameworks, how do you actually see AI showing up in day-to-day cybersecurity operation work? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the unvarnished truth is all our developers are trying to stuff AI into everything. And the effect is generally not super good. We are, at this moment, we are using AI to do things like helping to summarize, to make some kind of preliminary judgment. But I say this kind of carefully because AI doesn't really judge very well. So there is some kind of, there is a lot of development, a lot of research into doing that. So for example, we have a lot of pen test tickets. Then the volume is maybe like 1,000 or more a month. So what we are doing is we have LLM systems to try to determine whether this feature requires a pen test or not. So because, like again, I said the decision making is tough, right? So this is right now very heavily guardrailed and heavily checked. They do a lot of sample testing because you never know really when will the AI decide, oh, actually, you don't need a pen test, but actually it does. So yeah, hope I answered your question.
Great, thank you. I'm also an advocate of very balanced use of AI in anything, so thank you for mentioning that. Is that a question for Helen? Okay, could we also just, okay, so if you can answer that, Helen, then we'll see.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra. I'm part of SquareX. It's a browser security company. And it's just so great to see, so many women sitting here discussing. I think as attackers don't discriminate who to attack. From the defense side, we shouldn't discriminate who enters this field. So we talked about women entering the space, women in a C-level, but if we talk about mid-level, as you're looking to scale up and grow, what are the things that you think used to work in the past and don't work anymore today? What is one piece of advice, like, don't do it today, do something else? That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. I don't know whether there is something you shouldn't do. I know what you should do. My argument remains that it's not our numbers alone that put us in a disadvantage, but we also need to speak up and use the power that we have in a positive way. And embrace who you are and never fall into a trap of acting like a man to claim equality. That's always been my starting point. And for someone in a mid-level or someone who is just starting off, I would say, some things takes time. Power and confidence comes naturally to some, but for others it takes time. But when you work hard, time will come when you will feel comfortable negotiating from a place of strength and not this is what will give you the power at the end of the day. But some things just take time. And I feel that as women, we are often very, very critical and we are not confident enough. But often you are the smartest person in the room. You know your field. All you need to do is speak up.
Excellent advice. Thank you. Want to add to that?
If I may just quickly add, I think the value of job descriptions and even the definition of jobs is going to change fundamentally. If you think about it with agentic AI, you can easily design an agentic system to cover HR, finance, marketing. And in future, you may not be hiring a human being just for marketing, right? A human being may actually have to oversee these agents across the functions. And for me, I'm always looking for people who can think from the first principles of achieving outcomes rather than just doing what they're supposed to do within their JD or their task. And to your question of what to stop doing, I would say stop thinking just in terms of what you're hired for or what that job requires to do, and start thinking the bigger outcomes that your company is trying to achieve or your team is trying to achieve. And even if no one is asking you to do that, it doesn't mean you can't. And go ahead, right? And push towards those outcomes. Yeah.
No one asked me to be here, so that sounds good.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other questions? We have time for some more questions. Raise your hand, ask some questions. That's the theme. Yes?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for sharing your authentic sharings through the panel. My name is Afia, and my question would be, how can edutech solutions continue to be the key driving force for our children to use platforms safely?
Does anyone want to answer that?
I can respond as a cyber and security and mother. So first thing needs to start with conversation, right? So my teenagers, I have two, they wanted to have social media. And then I was saying, oh my gosh, I arrested so many people that did bad things online. How can I allow them to have it? But I also cannot hide. This is their world. They are digital natives. Not like me. I learned how to use the computer. They were born like that. So I said, okay, but then let's have a conversation. This is what happened in real life. These are the red flags, and I'm here for you. Please, not as only a specialist, but as your mom. Tell me. After that, you have many parental control tools that you can see what they are doing, you can limit the time they use, but the tool will not be effective if you don't talk to them and they don't understand the risk. And I'll tell you why. My 8-year-old son, he fished our password for the control tool, parental control tool, and was giving himself extra time to be online.
That's really smart.
Yes, I was so shocked. Smarter than expected. So no tech is enough if you don't have good awareness. And awareness starts at home.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question and a great answer, because one of my main lines of work is online child safety. And I'm really happy when I hear parents say that, and some of the things that we need to do. I mean, those of us in cybersecurity know this, but each of us need to tell other parents the same thing, because all our kids are safer when more parents understand these basics. So, each of you just please go and tell a non-cyber parent to have these communications, to put in parental control software. We each keep our families much more safer that way. So thank you.
Can I
for
just
that.
quickly add something? I think because the world is evolving so fast, it's also good that there's a lot of creative solutions that have come up because of AI and everything. And we need to be also creative in creating the awareness and the training. Because if we do it the traditional method, we will miss out a lot of others that need that sort of training. And what I've seen, like just a quick example, even on like TikTok trends, right? A lot of parents and grandparents are not yet familiar with AI and deepfake, but the children are, I don't know if you've seen the trend, like the children are taking a old homeless uncle and then like telling the parents that, hey mom, the uncle is in our house now. He said he knows you. And then they invited him to have dinner, and then the mom is all panicking and saying, and it shows like the real house, and then after that there's a transition from the homeless guy being outside of the house to inside the living room having dinner to lying on the parents' bed as well because he wanted a rest. And a lot of parents actually believed it. Some wanted to call the police, and then they went through the whole cycle of realizing, oh, this is actually AI. This is what it looks like. And it was creative. It was meant to be a prank. It's a trend now. But I thought it was a really good way to also teach and educate. So that's another way, like out of the box, how do we teach people about whether it's security or AI in a responsible manner? Yeah. So just wanted to mention that.
That's right. We need to be creative to deal with the creative bad guys as well. And so we're getting to the end of our time now, and what we have is a rapid fire segment, and the panelists don't know the questions that I've prepared for them, so they'll be just as surprised as you are, so which means that the answers are going to be even more authentic. How we're going to do this is going to be rapid fire, so it's going to be short answers. I'm going to read the question. If you want to answer that question, just raise your hand and answer it. It's fastest finger first kind of situation. So the first question is, what's the one cybersecurity myth you wish everyone would stop believing?
That it's standard and it's only this path, but there are many ways to it.
Okay, there are many ways to it. Excellent. Next question. If you could go back and say one sentence to your younger self about your career, what would you say? One sentence. Beatrice.
Just go for it.
Just go for it.
Just do it.
It's like a Nike slogan there. Okay, excellent. Third question. What's your cyber superpower? You have 3 people left.
Okay, reverse engineering.
Reverse engineering. What's the best piece of career advice you've ever received or ignored?
Go for it.
Go for it. So that's the one you've taken and not ignored, right? Okay. And so April, that leaves us with you. Great, finish this sentence. More women in cybersecurity means?
More intuition.
More intuition. Amazing. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. I mean, I know I put you on the spot, but we weren't supposed to be all serious all the time, right? Like, we got to have fun when we do our work, when we interact with our peers. So thank you to the audience for all the amazing questions. And if you could join me in giving our panelists a big round of applause. Thank you for inspiring us and keeping it light. And there's a networking session up ahead, so do catch hold of them and anyone else you wish to at the session. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
So thank you for your attendance this afternoon, and we hope to see you later. A very good afternoon to our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the inaugural Workforce Development Panel at the Singapore International Cyber Week 2025. My name is Juliana Yao, and I am delighted to be your MC for today. So for the very first time at SICW, we have gathered a panel that features government leaders from the International Coalition on Cybersecurity Workforces to share insights as well as strategies for developing world-class cybersecurity workforces. The conversation today will spotlight the vital roles of governments, industries, training and certification bodies, as well as professionals in uplifting skills, strengthening professional standards, and keeping pace with fast-evolving threats. This panel will also highlight the importance of international collaboration and explore opportunities for cross-border talent development and mutual recognition of competencies. But today, to kick off our conference proceedings, it gives me great pleasure to invite Assistant Chief Executive for Policy and Corporate Development at the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, Mr. Ong Kok Wee, up to the stage to deliver his opening address. Mr. Ong, please.
Hello, distinguished guests, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. It is my privilege to address you here at Singapore International Cyber Week, where we gather annually to shape the global cybersecurity landscape and discuss emerging needs, technologies, and cyber threats. This event is more than a conference. It is where partnerships are forged, innovative solutions are shared, and our commitment to keeping our cyberspace space safe is renewed. Underpinning all this is human capital. Cybersecurity has never been just a technical issue. It is just as much about the people behind the keyboards. In the age of AI, technologies like agentic AI will revolutionize all areas of life, including how we defend our networks and how our adversaries try to attack us. So some of us may be wondering why the need for this session at all. But I would argue that the role of human ingenuity, sense of purpose, and know-how is even more important than before in order to fully exploit these new technologies. How do we develop our cybersecurity workforce to navigate and thrive in this new environment? Globally, we face workforce and skills shortages and an evolving threat landscape that requires a coordinated international response. Against this backdrop, workforce development has become a critical pillar of national resilience. It is timely that we come together today to share experiences, debate approaches, and learn from one another. Since 2023, the International Coalition on Cybersecurity Workforces, or ICCSW, has been working to strengthen global cybersecurity workforces and promote skills development to keep pace with emerging cyber threats. I'm pleased to say that we made good progress on this vital mission. Just last September, the Wilton Park Dialogue provided an important platform with a renewed focus on these critical objectives. This milestone event brought representatives from Canada, Dubai, Japan, Ghana, the UK, Singapore, and 9 other countries, as well as international organizations and certification bodies. The discussions revolved around how global cybersecurity workforces can be strengthened, ways to boost cyber skills, and the development of new professional standards. The ICCSW published a joint statement in January 2025 with signatory partners to cooperate on various fronts. This includes aligning our vision and approaches through the ICCSW to further international cooperation. We're also working on adopting common terminology between cybersecurity skills frameworks. Additionally, we maintain continuous engagement with other signatories to share learnings, ideas, and ongoing challenges, and to coordinate on action where appropriate. Singapore is one of the signatory partners for the ICCSW joint statement, and we look forward to continue working with our partners to further the development of our cybersecurity workforces. In Singapore, the government has worked with industry and academic partners to develop the skills framework for Infocom technology, which includes a track on cybersecurity, and the Operational Technology Cybersecurity Competency Framework, or OTCCF. Both frameworks map out job roles and their required core and technical competencies and illustrate career pathways for cybersecurity practitioners. Complementing the framework, the Singapore Computer Society launched the Skills Pathway for Cybersecurity in 2024 with 13 founding employers that include CSA, GovTech, and Ensign InfoSecurity. The Skills Pathway currently maintains a portfolio of entry-level professional certifications endorsed by these employers from the government and industry. It also provides opportunities for internships and interviews for entry-level roles to support new entrants and mid-career professionals transitioning into the sector. To further raise the quality of our cybersecurity workforce, Singapore commissioned a consultancy study in late 2024. The study looks into the feasibility and effectiveness of professional framework that can be adopted by our cybersecurity workforce and cross-recognized by international partners. The study concluded in June of this year, and CSA is considering the recommendations and evaluating the next steps for implementation. To be sure, workforce development is just one pillar in our fight against cyber threats. Other areas of international cooperation are needed. One example is the International Counter-Ransomware Initiative, or CRI. It brings together 81 countries, international organizations, and private sector entities to foster cooperation and exchange best practices to counter global ransomware threats. The recent ransomware attacks in the UK and in Japan, which impacted not just the victim companies, but had ramifications across the entire supply chain, are reminders of this threat. Another example will be the Global Cybersecurity Labeling Initiative, or GCLI. It is a multilateral framework that brings together like-minded partners to create a trusted global ecosystem of IoT devices. The aim is to protect consumers, support innovation, and strengthen digital resilience across borders. By harmonizing the cybersecurity standards, we enable manufacturers to navigate compliance more efficiently across multiple markets, while ensuring consumers worldwide can trust the security of their IoT devices. The above collaborations have one thing in common. They all illustrate the importance of strengthening domestic cyber resilience and embedding our respective national efforts within an international ecosystem of trusted partners. By pooling expertise, exchanging threat intelligence, and coordinating action, we enhance collective capabilities against threats that know no borders. To conclude, the frameworks and partnerships we are building in the area of workforce development serve a practical purpose to strengthen our collective ability to address cyber threats through skilled professionals. Our various collaborative efforts demonstrate that coordinated international approaches can produce tangible results. By aligning our methods while respecting national differences, we are building a more capable and mobile cybersecurity workforce. Our work continues, and our commitment to this collaborative approach remains firm. I look forward to the panel discussion and presentations that follow, where we can delve deeper into these critical issues together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ong. Please do kindly remain on stage. In fact, I'd like to invite you over to the middle, and that is where I'm also going to be inviting our speakers as well as moderator from our panel discussion. Please do join us on stage as well. Let us go in with a group photograph together. Our panelists are already in position.
There we go.
So do allow me to introduce them to you anyway. Please be seated as I introduce our panel to you. So our moderator for this particular session is Mr. Andre Shori, Asia Pacific Cybersecurity Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer at Schneider Electric. And on our panel today as well, we're seeing on stage, we have Mr. Andrew Elliott, Deputy Director for Cybersecurity Innovation and Skills at the UK Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. We would also like to welcome Dr. Bushra El-Blushi, Director of Governance and Risk Management for Cybersecurity at the Dubai Electronic Security Center. Ms. Laura Fifield, Supervisor of the Cyber Skills Development Team at the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity. And last but not least, Mr. Wong Chun Wong, Director of Workforce and Strategic Partnership Division at the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore. There will also be a 15-minute moderator-led Q&A segment at the end of this panel discussion, and this will be conducted via Slido. So please do scan the QR code that you see on the screen right now to input your questions for our speakers. We did go in with a little bit of a switch. We took a photo before we started the panel discussion. So I think it will only be appropriate if we could give them a big round of applause as I hand the time over to Mr. Shori.
All right, thank you. Interesting. We're doing things a little bit different today. But I guess when it comes to workforce development, that's really what you want, right? Welcome to our panel discussion on workforce development, on landscape, frameworks, professionalization, and, if time permits, the impact of AI. With such an international and prestigious panel, I'm fairly positive that we'll have a robust and energized sharing on how each of us is approaching how we secure our futures through strategic and tactical approaches in developing an effective pool of cyber talent. Without further ado, let's start by having each panelist, and I think we'll just go in order, so we'll start with you, Andrew, present an overview of the cybersecurity workforce landscape in your respective countries.
Okay, so in the UK, we have a growing cyber workforce. We have about 60,000 people odd in the UK cyber sector. And if you include people who work across the rest of the economy, it takes it to more than double that. The rate of growth is about 5% growth a year we've seen recently. And our main challenges are, of course, trying to attract more people into the cyber workforce. Though there is a shortage. The shortage has been narrowing a bit, but the thing that we struggle with is providing the cyber workforce with the same professional architecture that other more established professions have. And we find that that is an important gap to fill because it makes it easier to explain the cyber profession to people who may be thinking about coming into this line of work. It provides credibility and kudos, which puts it on a par with other professions, makes it attractive towards young people. It allows people to have their career better managed, which helps with retention. And of course, it also allows us to sort of raise the bar and make sure that we have the best people helping to make the nation resilient against cyber threats. So those are the challenges, and that's what we've been trying to address. But overall, I feel like we're in an increasingly good position.
Fantastic. It sounds very, very positive for the UK.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And Dr. Bushra, how are things going in the UAE? Are we seeing similar approaches to the workforce landscape?
Yeah, I think when it comes to cybersecurity shortage, I believe it's a global issue. It's not limited to UAE or to UK or a specific country. That's why this coalition role and objectives are very important. And we hope that we can achieve what we are aiming to achieve by having coalition that aims to tackle the cybersecurity workforce and maybe to reach to a level where we can harmonize sort of the certifications or the accreditation to the cybersecurity professionals. Then we can have a shared resource pool that we can all trust and use across the different nations. So when it comes to Dubai specifically, we have information security regulation, which is the standard similar to the ISO 27001 that has been mandated to the government entities since 2014. And within that, we are actually requesting each and every government entity to have a CISO or an ISR officer, information security regulation officer, at least one officer who reports directly to the Director General. So we want to send the message that Information security is not a technical issue, or it's not a technical problem, and that person who is the most senior person in information security should report directly to the board of directors or to the CEO of the organization. And if the person is reporting to the IT department, then there will be a conflict of interest and they will get a non-compliance. So it has been a journey since 2014 till today. It's almost 11 years, but we started noticing how the government entities and agencies are progressing with that law and with that mandate, having a senior person or a senior office that reports directly to the Director General in order to give them the empowerment that they need to have. Maybe one of the things that we also noticed, and I'm sure it's similar in the UK, Canada, and other countries, and Singapore, most of our government agencies, they have jobs for governance, like the CISO role or information security regulation role, but maybe when it comes to the technical roles, like incident response, pen testing, this is where they will rely on private sector. That's why we are also trying to maintain the balance to make sure that we have the right quality of people who are working for the government, but also the right quality of people who are working in the private sector and providing services to the critical national infrastructure. And this is where we started the certification program for the private sector. No, this is in a nutshell how Dubai cyber workforce works.
No, absolutely fantastic, and I fully agree as well. You know, cybersecurity is, there are no borders when it comes to the protection of almost critical assets, which are all of us. And as a practitioner, I find it very, very encouraging to hear that the position of CISO is getting the right visibility and elevation, as I dare say it deserves. How about Canada, Laura? What are we doing there?
Yeah, so as has been mentioned, we know that there's a shortage of cyber skills around the globe, and as such, developing and retaining cybersecurity talent is essential for Canadian businesses and government. As such, the Government of Canada is invested in working with partners across the government, academia, and industry to develop a skilled and diverse cybersecurity talent pipeline. And there's many ongoing initiatives to do this, including initiatives to reduce the diversity gap in Canada's cybersecurity workforce, as well as identifying opportunities to upskill Canadian talent in all areas of cybersecurity, from K-12, post-secondary, industry, and government. And for example, we're seeing a really great focus being placed on K-12 cybersecurity education, and particularly educating students on the wide breadth of cybersecurity careers that are available, as well as cybersecurity skills that are needed for the roles. And so we're seeing more initiatives being developed for students to work on their cybersecurity skills. For example, capture the flag competitions, again, just to really focus on the K-12. And we're also noticing a shift in the recruitment strategies that are being implemented, showcasing the wide role of careers in cybersecurity, so highlighting the technical roles, but also really highlighting the non-technical roles in cybersecurity as well, to promote workforce diversity to address the evolving needs.
Absolutely fantastic. Yes, I like that dual approach in terms of the diversity for recruitment and when people are entering the workforce, as well as being able to give them the life skills that they need right from the get-go. And what are we doing in Singapore, Chunwell?
Actually not too different from my friends over there in the other countries. So in Singapore, the number of full-time cybersecurity professionals has more than doubled from around 4,000 in 2018 to around 10,000 as of now, right? These are real full-time people doing on the various cybersecurity specializations. Much of the demand come from the banking and finance sector, the government sector, as well as the retail sector. The talent shortage is more pronounced for professionals with at least 3 to 5 years of cybersecurity experience. And in terms of specializations, we see shortages in areas like penetration testing, cybersecurity architects, as well as digital forensics. And on the supply side, our local polytechnics and universities are collectively taking in around 900 students in the cybersecurity specialized courses every year. So this will provide a very good pipeline of talent, and we are complementing this with mid-career conversions into cybersecurity in programs that are often supported with government funding, like government agencies like CSA, WSG, as well as the Information Media Development Authority Authority, have various programs to support this. And within CSA, we have been rolling out various programs under what we call the SG Cyber Talent programs since 2018 and 2020. This includes programs to introduce students at a secondary level into cybersecurity through boot camps as well as the CTF competitions. We also have mentorship programs, and we to encourage diversity. We also have what we call this Women in Cyber program that helps to try to attract more women and girls to consider a career in cybersecurity. In fact, right before this panel, we had another discussion earlier at 1 o'clock where we invited a panel of women professionals to talk about the career journey in the presence of students and younger professionals in the audience, right? And in CSA, we also work on various programs to help the professionals to upskill, right? And for example, we work with on the cybersecurity strategic leadership program in a collaboration with the Singapore Management University, okay, to provide this 5-month courses, right, to help our cybersecurity leaders, including those at the CISO level, to introduce them to what groups look like in terms of cybersecurity skills for leadership, and so that they can actually lead the cybersecurity functions inside their own organizations better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't realize I was still hot mic'd. No, absolutely. I really love the point about diversity as well. I mean, fully agree that this profession needs a lot more diversity, not just in terms of gender, but in terms of mindset, in terms of approach and maturity levels, and innovation and ideas as well. So 100% fantastic. Yeah. Thinking about competency frameworks, I'm going to direct this question to Laura. How did the Canadian government develop its cybersecurity competency framework, and how do you strike a balance between global standards and domestic needs?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The Canadian Cybersecurity Skills Framework was created in 2018 to help Canadian businesses and industries meet their cybersecurity needs. It was developed by the government, industry, and academic stakeholders based on the US NICE framework, but then contextualized for the Canadian labor market. We're actually in the final stages right now of updating our framework to further align it with our international partners, as well as to add additional information and guidance for small and medium businesses, as this makes up a large portion of Canada's economy. The biggest change in the update that we're doing right now is to expand on the role of the cyber generalist, which is in the current iteration of the framework, but we're adding additional information and guidance for small and medium businesses. To do this update, we're consulting across industry, academia, and global certifications to ensure that it continues to align with our domestic labor force needs. And then initiatives such as the International Coalition enable us to continue to be aware of global trends and standards, to then be able to keep our framework updated to align with these, as well as to support international cybersecurity workforce mobility. It will also continuing to keep the framework aligned to the Canadian labor market.
Okay. And if you don't mind me asking, you mentioned cyber generalists earlier. Could you maybe help define that a little bit?
Yeah, so in the current iteration of the framework, we have the cyber generalist, which provides for small and medium businesses that perhaps don't have as many cybersecurity positions in their organization. So the cyber generalist is maybe wearing many hats within a small and medium business. And so we're trying to provide them with guidance as to the types of skills and knowledge and competencies that they would need when they're in that role. And then in the update of the framework, we're trying to provide additional information specific to the technical and non-technical skills for that role.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. And Chumbong, how do we go about ensuring that these frameworks aren't just reference documents, but they actually are useful tools that shape hiring, training, and career progression?
All right. As my boss Kok Wee earlier mentioned in the opening remarks, in Singapore we have rolled out the ICT Skills Framework for Cybersecurity, as well as the OT Cybersecurity Competency Framework, or OTCCF. And these are not just basic reference documents, but actually our universities and polytechnics are making direct reference to these two documents when designing the course curriculum, both for pre-employment training as well as for continuing education and training, meaning both courses for adult professionals. Right? To help the graduates to be more industry ready, most of our polytechnics out here now require the students to perform a 1 full year of internship as part of the 3 years diploma program. And last year, we worked with the Singapore Computer Society and the Skills Future Singapore to roll out the Skills Pathway for Cybersecurity initiative. And under this initiative, more than 10, in fact 13, like what we mentioned earlier, large cybersecurity employers in Singapore have come together to endorse a list of cybersecurity certifications at the entry level. And these employers would provide opportunities for internship as well as opportunities for interview for entry-level jobs for holders of such certificates. And with regards to career progression, within the Singapore government, we take a competency approach to staff appraisal, taking references to the competency frameworks I mentioned earlier. And for each cybersecurity job role, the officer in the government will need to demonstrate a set of functional or technical competencies that is appropriate for his or her seniority level. And officers also need to fulfill a set of core competencies that's common to all public service officers. These are a critical part of our appraisal process.
No, I imagine it's a very useful roadmap as well for people who want to do some career planning and to see exactly what skills and gaps they need to address in order to progress.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, brilliant, brilliant. And Andrew, this question is for you, and this is around mobility. How can countries work towards harmonizing competency frameworks to support international cross-recognition?
Firstly, on your previous question, you're absolutely right that we need to not leave these things on the shelf. And therefore, having designed these frameworks, we need to have a sort of clear program of how we're going to drive adoption across the cyber workforce. And there are lots of different ways in which we can build the business case for businesses to ensure that they manage their cyber workforce through these frameworks, that professionals in the cyber profession can work with these frameworks to progress their careers. But it makes it a lot easier if we work internationally, as you've just asked, in two ways. Firstly, this is a mobile workforce. There are global businesses who have international threats. So clearly our approach needs to be international. But also the cyber profession is just so complicated. All of these different specialisms, we've been hearing about risk and about pen testing and system architects, and we've identified 16 of these specialisms. So trying to set the standards across everything is just an absolute nightmare. So if Dr. Bushra can help me with pen testing, for example, that's one down. So we need to work collaboratively to be able to do it more effectively. But we need to work collaboratively to be able to ensure that these standards are right. And the way we've been trying to harmonize these things is through a number of projects to try to map each other's standards to each other. There've been two recent projects which we're going to hear about in detail later today. So I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder, but it requires a bit of effort to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're all using the same language and the same vocabulary. But once you've got through those hurdles, actually it should be relatively straightforward trying to ensure that we get towards mutual recognition.
Yeah, fantastic. And along those lines as well, thinking about the UK Cybersecurity Council, for example, could you share some of the United Kingdom's experiences, successes and challenges in professionalizing your workforce?
I think that we've had some success. We've managed to build some standards. We've got a good number of people certified against those standards. But we have definitely found that bootstrapping the system from the start is difficult, because you have to go and find individuals across the workforce who you can use to interview and assure that individuals are meeting those standards. And I think that you need to put effort into working out how you actually initiate the process at the start. I think the other thing is we didn't really start talking internationally early enough. So we have this sort of, when we met in Wilton Park, and we heard about that earlier, the expression everybody was saying was, let's not reinvent the wheel. And many of us have started on these things really, I think, without working out exactly what the existing landscape is. So there is a lot of knowledge now about where each country is. There are a lot of frameworks that exist, but they are now being mapped together. So I think a lot of focus needs to be put on that as we try and get things going. But the UK Cybersecurity Council is making very good progress. The thing that we really need to do to put the icing on the cake is to drive demand for this. We need our regulators to be saying to regulated businesses, these are the standards you need to adopt. We're starting with that. Our telecoms regulator, our energy regulator are being more proactive in that space. And the other thing we need to do is we need to start embedding this into government procurement. So within the UK economy, the largest consumer of cyber services is the public sector. So I have a big buying lever here, and really I should be ensuring that all of government is asking its suppliers to provide cyber services using people who are professionally accredited to this framework.
I like that approach, a very financially driven one. I mean, really getting people where motivation comes.
We're working with businesses, so we have to think about it through their lenses. And, you know, if there isn't an economic motivator, then it won't happen.
Fantastic. What about the Dubai Cyber Force program, Dr. Busha? There's been mention about that. How are you measuring success in that context?
So in Dubai, we established Dubai Cyber Innovation Park like almost 5 years back to be an innovation arm for Dubai Electronic Security Center, because usually government agencies and private sector look at us like regulators, but we want to show the other arm where we are collaborators. We are partners with the private sector, we are partners with the government entities in order to uplift the workforce and in order to make sure that we have the right innovation that we need to have in cybersecurity. That's why Dubai Cyber Innovation Park objective is to build partnership with the private sector in order to uplift the cyber force of Dubai and also to actually enhance the innovation in the city. So the first program that we launched in Dubai Cyber Innovation Park is a Cyber Node, which is a public-private partnership with the private sector, and the aim is to uplift the cybersecurity skills of the professionals from the early stage to a senior level stage. And over there, we issued also multiple programs, one of which was a CISO program. So it's a 6-month program for the CISOs working either in Dubai or outside Dubai that gives them the real, let's say, experience from the experienced people from the field. And the program was also being actually in collaboration with many universities in UAE, Europe, and other countries, and has been accredited by EU. So at the end of the 6 months, the graduate will get a certificate from us, from the private sector, and from academia, showing that he has the right capabilities, the right skills, that he can do what he's supposed to do in the actual work. But back to the question, which is the basis of, let's say, the harmonization or the basis of the certification. When we are saying skills framework, I think also our definitions to the skills framework is different between nations, and this is what we addressed at the Wilton Park. So back to having common language, back to having common definitions, and this is where we issued the common, I think, common definition for accreditation certification, and it's publicly available in the UK government website as one of the outcomes that we came out with. Thank you for DCIT for leading this initiative, and thank you for everyone who participated. But it's a common language. At least we all agreed that when I'm saying certification, this is what I mean by certification. When I'm saying accreditation, this is what we mean by accreditation. And it was signed by multiple governments, certification bodies, ISO, NIST representatives were with us in the review and in the approval process. So it's a good reference for all nation states to refer to that piece of work. What do we mean by certification, accreditation, and other terms that we are using globally? I agree with Andrew's point. We shouldn't reinvent the wheel. And this is why in Dubai, for example, when we came out with a skills framework or competency framework, it's a digital competency framework. It was based on the international standards. NIST was one of them and others. We tried to focus on technical capabilities, technical skills, soft skills, and also international certifications. So we shouldn't reinvent the wheel again. So if someone is coming from the private sector and he's holding 10 professional certifications, why should I reassess him again? Aren't those 10 certifications that he's holding from professional companies like ISC2, ISACA, CompTIA enough to prove that he has the right skills that he's supposed to have, and he's now ready to work with the critical national infrastructure? So Cyberforce ideas, and I think Sebastian and Chris' team, they will explain it in more detail. It's based on the professional certifications that you already have as an individual, and we shouldn't reinvent the wheel for you to have an access to the government agencies.
No, absolutely agree. I think that, when it comes to setting the common criteria in terms of how, say, certifications are being recognized, the credibility of those, the process as well as the certifications is absolutely critical. Otherwise, they're just pieces of paper. Fully agree. I was curious about if you could expand a bit on the CISO training program. Was that more geared towards strategy, leadership, or is it more technical, or a combination of both?
So it's both. It's a partnership actually between us, Thales, French defense company, and Florence University in Italy. And the idea here is to have a 6-month program. In each month, you will have a week where we'll bring a subject matter expert to explain a certain topic. So it's both between leadership, emerging tech, security of, let's say, the critical infrastructure that you would have. So we will have 3 days on tabletop exercise within the program. And at the end, there is a pass and fail, by the way. And the success rate or the acceptance rate that we have in this program specifically is 10%. So out of 100 candidates who are applying for the program, we will accept maybe 10 to 15 candidates, only just to maintain, let's say, the level and the quality of the people who are joining, to create that community of, let's say, cyber workforce who will serve the nation later on, and to make sure that they also have the right, let's say, skills that they need to have in order to save the nation. Back to your question, it will include both technical and leadership sessions in the program itself.
No, fantastic, and definitely a great way to grow the most senior, most key, important cyber leaders in UAE. Only 10 or 15 per batch, and they say, I now understand why they say it's lonely at the top. So, yeah, fantastic. Chumbong, I was wondering if you could maybe give us, without stealing anyone's thunder, and I know that there's a second session after this where we'll get deeper into the study on professionalization in Singapore, but I was wondering if maybe you could elaborate a little bit more in terms of, why we're doing this and what was the thought process behind even initiating this process.
Sure, thank you. So CSA, we commissioned a consultancy study with Ernst & Young late last year to look into the feasibility and the effectiveness of professionalizing the cybersecurity workforce in Singapore to raise quality standards. And through the process, we consulted around 200 stakeholders to obtain their views about professionalizing the workforce, which is in effect to set up a national framework to accredit individuals on their skills, competencies, as well as experience. Right. Some of the key questions that the consultant looked at included what kind of specializations should be professionalized, whether accreditation should be made mandatory or leave it to be voluntary, whether the market is ready for the change. We also wanted to address concerns raised by stakeholders. For example, how can we find a balance between ensuring workforce quality and avoiding raising barriers to entry unnecessarily? And the results are quite encouraging. The majority of the respondents indicated that the workforce and the industry is somewhat ready and ready for professionalization. The consultant therefore recommended a phased approach for implementation, starting with with a few specializations and adjusting the model along the way. They also recommended that accreditation should be tiered to differentiate professionals based on their competency, skills, and experiences. And for the past couple of months, CSA is still reviewing the various options for professionalization and looking into potentially having a small-scale pilot next year. We will announce the plans when it's ready later in this year.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. That's very interesting. I like the matrix approach to it. That will be an interesting to see how effective that is once you do the pilot, and I'm sure there'll be lots and lots of learnings in that initiative as well. As I mentioned, if we had time, we were going to go into AI, and we do. So I'm going to throw this question out to Laura. Will AI and automation kill off entry-level jobs like SOC analysts, or will it raise the bar and create new, higher value roles?
So I'm looking forward to hearing my fellow panelists' thoughts on this as well. I think the entry-level jobs are here to stay, but it's the skills and responsibilities that are likely going to be required to shift. We're already seeing skills related to AI being incorporated into existing cybersecurity roles as a tool to help accelerate or automate certain aspects of the role, which then leave further time for those in those positions for critical analysis and the critical thinking aspect of the jobs. But given the shift, we're also seeing AI highlight the importance of a multi-skilled cybersecurity professional with increasing emphasis on soft skills such as flexibility and adaptability to continue to be able to evolve as technology evolves throughout individuals' careers as well. So I think it's really going to be important for individuals, to maintain that flexibility to be able to adapt.
All right, and I'll open the question up to the rest of the panelists as well, if you have an opinion you'd like to share. Maybe Andrew or Dr. Bishra?
So I will just give two examples from what we did in DISC in the past 2 years, I would say. So just last week, we launched a compliance and audit platform that will automate 80% to 85% of the audit processes that we've been doing. And there was always a fear from my team that what we will do after this platform. So my answer always that they will focus on the core critical elements rather than wasting few weeks in the government entity, making sure that they are compliant against the standards that we issue. They will spend maybe a day or two focusing on the critical risks that those government entities has and trying to solve them and uplift the government entities rather than looking into the wider scope. So that platform will facilitate their role. It will bring a new perspective to the audit and compliance, and it will also elevate, let's say, the time so we can use the time more efficiently and effectively rather than, as I said, wasting 2 weeks or 3 weeks doing compliance and audit. Another example is for policy development. So we are no longer, let's say, doing a benchmark from scratch. We are using AI to help us to do at least the first draft of the policy, the first draft of the benchmark, and then bringing those perspectives from the team to challenge the draft that we will get or the benchmark that we will get. So those are two examples on how we are using AI in order to elevate, let's say, the cyber workforce that we have at the center at least.
I think we recognise those examples in the UK as well. The AI has already had a big impact, though. We are seeing entry-level roles are changing.
So I don't think entry-level roles are going away, but I think that employers are looking for additional experiences. So it's interesting. In the UK cyber workforce, there are different pathways which people come through. The most popular pathway is the graduate pathway. People go to university, study something like computer science or cybersecurity, and then go and work. And then the second largest pathway is those adults who are career changing, career switchers. And actually, I think the one thing we're seeing with AI is it's giving the career switchers a bit of a leg up, because they've got other experiences which they can bring into the piece, which you can't learn from AI. They've got those like customer service skills that they've been doing in some other role or something like that. They bring in a different set of features. So I think employers are actually pushing the bar up. The entry-level roles will be more ambitious and difficult to get, but ultimately, I can't see there's going to be a big impact on numbers in the workforce. AI is an amazing productivity tool, but those people attacking us are using it as well. So we need it to match them in firepower, but that doesn't necessarily mean we need fewer people to deliver it.
I like the analogy, actually. I was thinking about exactly what you were just saying as you were saying it, and that AI is going to remove some of the entry barriers that you're seeing, not just in say, cybersecurity, but across many, many different professions that can utilize AI. I was just thinking about, an artist, for example. So now you can focus more in terms of what you imagine versus your ability to wield a brush.
Yeah, I mean, the basic technical skills that they might have needed, the AI can help them with that. Yeah. But the artist has some new perspective, which, So, when I started in this role several years ago, the NCSC, our National Cybersecurity Center, would always point to particular examples of interesting characters they've brought into their organization, like the artist or the actor or the musician. A lot of musicians seem to be, stand outside the NCSC, you see all the guitars being carried in. But they used to be the sort of exception, and I think we're seeing a lot more of that. It's very interesting.
Fantastic. And Chumbo, if you have
well, in my view, AI can help mitigate the shortage of in the cyber workforce. Right? AI is good at tasks that, for example, involves repetitive or rule-based and pattern detection work. So for such tasks, we should use AI, for example, as a co-worker and develop human competencies to supervise or fine-tune the AI algorithms or systems. And I think that while AI may replace some jobs like the tier 1 SOC analysts, the humans still need to acquire the knowledge on how to do these jobs. This is so that we can understand the actions and the decisions that are taken by the AI system, so that make sure that we can see that they are explainable, verifiable, as well as ethical. So that's why this is also quite similar to what our approach towards education. For example, mathematics, right? We want our school children to continue to learn the times table. When them to continue to learn the mathematical formulas before being allowed to use calculators and computers to do the same, to use them to solve problems.
Fantastic. Okay, moving on to the audience questions. Again, a reminder that please submit your questions via Slido. We're more than happy to take more questions from the audience, of course. The first question that we have is, other than cyber skills and competency, how is ethics handled across borders? So an ethical question, interesting. Unethical skilled professionals, and there's big quotes around professionals there, who are fired in one country can always go to another country. And that goes back to the mobility we were talking about earlier. How do we deal with some of the ethical considerations around mobility and around cross-border cyber skills and competency? If any of you would like to jump in, it's a question open to all of you.
Well, Dr. Busher, if you do spot anybody, can you let me know?
I mean, I don't know the answer to this, but I mean, what we're doing with creating the UK Cybersecurity Council in the UK is trying to adopt the professional landscape, the professional architecture of other professions. So I'm assuming that to answer this question, we would go and work out, well, how do they manage these issues in medicine or in law, and what are the safeguards we have in place to try to stop a rogue actor moving between states. Maybe our immigration system will protect us, but I don't know.
I think this should be one of the main objectives of the coalition, and this is why we are calling for having a harmonized register or harmonized certification. So we all agree on the requirements for certifying individuals, and we have a single register, so it's a shared, trusted resource pool. Then I would strongly believe that we won't have such an issue, because all of us here, we have certain levels of ethics that cyber professionals should have in our frameworks, but it's in silo. That's why if we will bring up the objectives of the international coalition and we agree on those norms, I would believe that this will be avoided through that recognition of the certifications or the requirements that we have in each and every country.
Fantastic. Chumbong or Laura, anything to add? No?
I agree with what's been said. I think increased dialogue and increased cooperation through initiatives such as the coalition will help with that, definitely. And I like the idea of looking at how it's been addressed in other industries as well.
So I agree that this is something that can be potentially tackled by the coalition, but we also need to agree that we couldn't possibly set up an international police, right, to look into catching unethical people, because maybe due to privacy or confidentiality issues. But really, if a person is unethical, anywhere that he goes, he'll be found out, right? So it's not that he will be able to survive or professionally in one jurisdiction, having being unethical in another. So I believe over time, as long as the employers will be able to see what the person do professionally, and such unethical behaviors will be called out.
But should it go to the employer? Like, where does level of responsibility lie? Because if you think about, say, a lawyer, right? When you migrate to another country, then it's usually the potential employer that's doing the due diligence and, calling up the university where the person might have got their degree, checking with the bar council to see whether or not they're still registered. But it is very much a proactive measure by potential employer. The government of the country that they've moved to, for example, wouldn't have a much play in that. Whereas with cybersecurity, because of the potential impact, and you're talking about, if somebody's going to work in critical infrastructure and things like that, does that become a national security issue, or is that still, the onus is still on the employer? Where should that sit potentially?
Question was about ethics, not national security. If there was a national security risk, we would catch them through vetting, I think. But yes, I agree. It's the role of the employer. The role of the government is to create the framework that can allow the employer to do those checks effectively. So, if in your example, if they go through the bar council, if they're looking for a rogue lawyer, then presumably, if you're looking to hire a foreign lawyer, your local legal regulator would go and check with the legal regulator of the other state, and the government may have supported the framework to allow that relationship and the data to flow. I don't know, but. So I agree. The employer is the party who's responsible for the check.
Yeah. Also thinking about, I'm always I find it very amusing whenever you're going to a new country and you have that embarkation card or the immigration, the customs and immigration card. And one of the questions they always ask is, have you committed a crime or a felony, right? So obviously they're relying very heavily on the person to declare it, right? There's an active check on potentially every passenger, although that may be changing with the ESTAs and the new type of e-visas that are coming out. But my favorite question of all time still is every time you visit the United States and they go, are you a terrorist, yes or no? And I wonder how many people answer yes. Next question from the audience. Do you think we're doing enough to prepare everyone in the workforce to deal with cyber risks and not just relying on those with professional qualifications? Are we doing enough to prepare everyone in the workforce to deal with cyber risks and not just relying on those with professional qualifications? I'm interpreting that question to mean, maybe it's a societal question in terms of, are we doing enough to give a significant cross-section of society a basic fundamental understanding of cybersecurity, maybe even beyond what is commonly out there today via media and TV, and then all the breach incident reports that are coming out. What are your thoughts there in terms of, maybe as a society, are we doing enough or do we need to do more?
Yeah, sure. We do need to do more, and we in the UK we have this embedded in the curriculum for everybody to become aware of these. We have other digital inclusion programs across society to try to tackle online harms and share responsibility for security. I agree, though, we need to do more to embed it really into the sort of the culture and DNA of the citizens. So yes, it's a challenge which I think probably every state is grappling with.
I think it's always been said that human, they are the weakest element in the cyber ecosystem. So no matter what you will do as a regulator or as a critical infrastructure, if an individual is not aware, he doesn't have enough knowledge, experience, how to deal with links, malicious links or scams that he's receiving, then the whole ecosystem will be destroyed. So in UAE, for example, having societal, let's say, cybersecurity awareness is one of the main domains that we have in UAE cybersecurity strategy. And I believe October is the month of cybersecurity, and we have launched many initiatives in UAE to support the cyber month. So one of the initiatives was like 30 seconds with 30 leaders giving awareness, let's say, speech or awareness sentences to the society, and that initiative was led by the UAE Cybersecurity Council. So such initiatives that we launch between time to time are very important, but always we need more to have to raise the bar when it comes to cybersecurity society awareness.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll echo what's been said. I think it's important for everyone to have an understanding of cybersecurity and an awareness of it. As I mentioned, we're seeing a lot more initiatives being directed at K-12 to ensure the next generation is aware of cybersecurity. Canada also has Get Cyber Safe, which provides information for the general public on cybersecurity, as well as on a variety of topics to help try to make sure that everyone has a baseline understanding of cyber threats and how to protect themselves and how to be more cyber secure.
And last but never least, Jumo, please.
As in Singapore, we are doing a lot, but still not enough. I answer the question in 2 points, right? Firstly, we are doing a lot for cybersecurity awareness among the general public. For those of you who took the train here, MRT, or would just walk aside the corridor, right? You'll pass by a cute little hedgehog called Jaga. I'm not sure you guys saw that. Maybe later you can take a picture of that. Right? Basically, this is a part of a campaign that asks people to stop and check when anytime we are being there are attempts to lure you into scams or efforts like that. Right? So this has been public education. We just hope that this kind of education will help to reach out to more people for them to be able to do the right thing. Right? When faced with, for example, urgent messages, for you to respond. And you need to stop and think before you act. Right? The second part is about the question asked about not relying on those with professional qualifications. This one I fully agree. Therefore, we are trying various ways to try to bring basic cybersecurity awareness or even cybersecurity competencies, right, to those who are not cybersecurity professionals, right? So, for example, since 2 years ago, CSA, we rolled out this program called SG Cyber Associate, right? Basically to work with professions like engineers, lawyers, or auditors, okay, to introduce some basic foundational cybersecurity courses to them, for example, 1 or 2 day courses, so to equip those lawyers, engineers and auditors with basic cybersecurity skills so that they do not need to rely on cybersecurity professionals to provide cybersecurity advice. So that they can do better in their own engineering job, a legal job, taking into account cybersecurity best practices. And of course, I say more can be done, right, to reach out to more.
Fantastic. Well, that's all the time we have today. I want to thank the panel. I thank Andrew, Dr. Bushra, Laura, and Shumbong for a fantastic sharing, thought leadership. I'm especially encouraged in some of the proactive and discussions that are happening and some of the ideas that are emerging and some of the pilot programs and that I'm sure will be the next step, the next stage as well. So looking forward to seeing those improvements out there in the public as well as within the professional discipline itself. Once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate the time in the panel today. Thanks.
A very big thank you to Mr. Shuri as well as our speakers. That really covered a lot of ground, many different perspectives as well. Can we give our speakers as well as our moderator another big round of applause, please? So now moving along from our panel discussion, I would like to give you a little overview of what you can expect next on stage for our presenters over the next half hour or so. I think earlier on, Andrew did give you guys a little bit of a teaser of what you might be expecting, our 2 presentations that will be going on. So for the first presentation, it will feature the UK-Singapore Cybersecurity Body of Knowledge Mapping Project, where both countries have actually come together and they have agreed to further cooperate on developing cybersecurity profession and skills. One of the agreed collaboration areas was to build and align a common knowledge base in cybersecurity. So this will be done through an in-depth study to identify the synergies and differences of the UK's cybersecurity body of knowledge, as well as Singapore's information security body of knowledge. This will be a first step for both countries to jointly build and develop a cybersecurity profession that is clearly defined and with the intent to also future-proof it. And for our second presentation that will be happening on this stage as well, CREST, which is an international not-for-profit membership body representing the global cybersecurity industry, will be sharing an analysis of how different jurisdictions set their standards and also how to raise the quality of their cybersecurity workforces. With the stage now ready for me to invite our presenters on, let us now welcome our speakers. Firstly, we have Professor Stephen Wong, Director of the Centre of Digital Enablement at the Singapore Institute of Technology, as well as Dr. Yulia Chetan-Serva, Director of Academic Centre of Excellence in Cybersecurity Education at Cardiff University in the UK. Professor Wong and Dr. Yulia, please.
Thank you. Right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our session. I'm very glad to welcome Yulia as well to Singapore and for co-presenting this with me. Right, so today we are going to talk about actually our project on mapping of the information security BOK, the ISBOK from Singapore, as well as working with Yulia and team, mapping that to the cybersecurity BOK, the CyBOK from the UK. Right, so just very quickly, because introduce ourselves. So my name is Stephen. My full-time job, I'm actually a professor at the Singapore Institute of Technology. All right, that's what pay me my salary. Unfortunately, with one pay, I do a lot of volunteering work as well. So those doesn't pay me, but I think they are very meaningful work. So I also do have an affiliation with CREST. We started the CREST Singapore chapter here many years ago, so I was the co-chair of that as well. Yeah, and I think I'm very, very excited about this project that we have started together with CyBOK. And I think I'll let Yulia also introduce herself. Yeah.
Thank you, Steven. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Yulia Cherdantseva. I am a researcher and associate professor at Cardiff University. We have a Center for Cybersecurity Research, and I also lead the Center of Excellence in Cybersecurity Education at Cardiff, as well as have various other roles. And in this discussion, I represent SICW. I have had the honor of serving on the SICW Executive and Editorial Board since 2021, and I'll talk more about SICW in a moment.
Right, great. Yeah, so a quick overview of our agenda, because we were told that we only have 15 plus 5 minutes, so we will go at lightning speed, right? Many things to cover, but today is just to give you a glimpse of what we are working together on, right? Because this is just the start of the journey. And later on, you will see actually it's not a simple journey as well, right? We'll present some preliminary results that can actually showcase how difficult this task actually is, right? So the background, so this project actually was first mentioned at SICW 2023 by Minister Josephine Teo, which is our minister in charge of cybersecurity. So it took us 2 years to get the ground started, but finally, we got it started this year, and we started the project actually on 15th of August this year, right, with the funding support from our Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, as well as on the UK side.
So on the UK side, we are funded and supported by DCIT and FCDO, so really grateful to the colleagues here at the front and second row. Really, really excited about the project, and I think bouncing off everything that the panel said earlier. So it's about international collaboration, it's about providing shared foundation for cybersecurity discipline and profession.
Right, so very quick introduction. Maybe Yulia, you want to?
Sure, yeah, I'll kick off with SICW. So we started in 2017. So Andrew already painted very positive picture about cybersecurity education and professionalization in the UK. And one of the unique projects to the UK is SICW. We are funded through National Cybersecurity Programme, and it's a comprehensive framework for cybersecurity discipline, bringing sort of harmonization and structure into cybersecurity discipline. It is based, so our motto is for the community, by the community. So it's a largest free resource supporting cybersecurity education, supporting curriculum design and cybersecurity. And it was designed through extensive consultation with academia and industry. And since then, we keep updating and supporting the body of knowledge up to date. And in the UK specifically, SICW plays a very important role in cybersecurity workforce, in capacity building, because it underpins certification of undergraduate and postgraduate degree programs. It underpins assured training recognition and recognitions of centers of excellence in cybersecurity research and education.
All right. Thank you for the introduction to SICW. And I introduced a bit about the ISBOK, the Information Security Body of Knowledge. Actually, the ISBOK is slightly older. It was actually developed back in 2009, the first generation of it. It was developed primarily at that point of time because there wasn't a clear definition. What was information security? What was cybersecurity? So at the point of time, we do have an agency now called IMDA, the Infocom Media Development Authority. Back then, it was IDA, the Infocom Development Authority. They were looking at cybersecurity or information security at the point of time as a new sector of growth, but there wasn't an understanding what on earth is information security. So at that point of time, they actually worked together with the Singapore Computer Society as well as to formate actually AISP, right, which is the Association of Information Security Professionals, to try to standardize what do we mean by information security, what are the areas within it, right? And actually, across the years, that was being used as a pillar for how we actually look at professional training. But as cybersecurity moved along a decade later, in 2021, we actually revamped the ISBOK to version 2.0. And that's where also, because at that point of time in 2021, we started to have the cybersecurity skills framework. Now there is a framework of which you can base towards, because initially in 2009, it was purely knowledge-based, right? So we did have a competency framework for digital at that point of time, all right, but not so much in cybersecurity. So what happened in our revamped is that we tie in together, or we reference very closely to the Singapore cybersecurity skills framework, because why? What the skills framework can tell you, this is what you require to do the job, okay? But what does it exactly mean? For people who know the field, of course, I know what that means. For people who doesn't know the field, what do you exactly mean by penetration testing? There can be many, many different things within it. So the ISBOK was meant for that purpose, so that it allows really a simple way for people to understand what are these areas of work, what are these tasks that people need to do. And the ISBOK, well, we have used it for curriculum review in Singapore, and actually because of the way it's been crafted, we also have a lot of interest by regional partners, because cybersecurity is not just Singapore, right? It's really how do we work with our neighbors. The safer the neighborhood, the better we become. So we also had interest actually across the region that the ISBOK was actually used by several other cybersecurity associations in the region to translate in their native language. So to us, that's very good, because that means that now we have a common language that people could understand, but in different native languages, right? So that's what has happened now. So we have actually translated it to Bahasa Melayu, right, for Brunei, Bahasa Indonesia for Indonesia, as well as Vietnamese. So these are things that is already happening now. So I do think that with the work with UK, it's also very good. We can now look at what are our commonalities and what are our differences, and then we can move forward from there. Right. So across the entire BOK, we actually have 6 domain areas covering 22 topics. Okay, and then you will see actually with cyborg, it's a very different thing, which is why this exercise and this project is very, very meaningful and interesting. Right, Julia?
Very briefly about cyborg, so you can scan the QR code and find out everything. So we have this lovely donut diagram. So this is how cyborg sort of is known. This is our brand. Cyborg is structured around 5 broad categories and into 21 knowledge areas. Cyborg is not just the body of knowledge. So through 8 years, as we've been operating, we also created various other resources. Recently, 2 years ago, we introduced supplementary guides. So we published AI for security and privacy of AI supplementary guides. That was a push from our community. That's how we responded to community demand for need for knowledge and guidance in terms of curriculum design in these emerging areas. We have a mapping framework, so anyone who would like to map the module, the programs, the professional certification or training against cyborg. So we have standardized guidance, how people could do it transparently. And we have a very large collection of free educational resources and outreach resources, starting from books for toddlers. It's all about cyber and dinosaurs. If you're interested, have a look. And up to programs and materials, including labs and lectures for a specialized master's degree in cybersecurity.
All right, so to give you a quick overview about the project that we are working towards, as I mentioned, the project just started not too long ago, right? So it's about less than 2 months, all right, or 2 months that we have been working on this. So to give you an overview of what are we doing. Okay, essentially there are 2 parts to this project. One is in the what, the other is in the how. Okay, the reason is because actually just now was mentioned by the panelists as well. Countries have gone ahead to move in isolation in developing their own body of knowledges. There's already something that's out there now. The first thing that we need to do is to discover what is the commonalities and the differences between these BOKs before we can even talk about the how. How do we continue our collaboration? How do we harmonize? And how do we move ahead? Right. So package 1 really, as I mentioned, look at the what, right? Looking at the structures of the BOK, you will realize that they are very different. The assumptions, the scope, the breadth, we'll mention some of this later on, right? We'll do this in a very methodical way as well by doing the mappings, and can realize that actually, whilst both the approaches, they can make sense for both parties, right? How do we come together without actually having one template? Because it's going to be problematic, just everything into one template, but rather how can we continue our efforts, right? Looking at what are the commonalities, the differences, and how do we move forwards in doing the mapping, right? Which is the next part, the how. Once we know the differences, the commonalities, the differences in structure as well, we can see how we can actually work together, right? And how we can actually cross borders, recognize what is in one BOK to the other. And later on, you will see, right, when we present some of the early mapping results, why this is so important, that there's no need to have just one copy, everybody follows it, but actually mapping can work because the use case for each country, the regulations, the policies are different, and those plays a part, right? The people plays a part, the culture plays a part. Okay, but there is a way actually that we can actually map what one community does versus that of the other. All right, so these are the team members from both the Singapore as well as the UK team. Right, so challenge. Why is not trivial? Just on the onset, looking at tables of contents, all right? You'll see that on your left, all right? That is actually the ISBOK, the way that it is structured, where we have 6 domains, right, covering everything from governance to management, all the way to cyber defense, across 22 topics, all right? And I think for the CyBOK, just now Yulia already mentioned, these are the areas that they cover, the 5 domains and 21 knowledge areas. You can see that not only the numbers are different, the topics are different as well. But collectively, they do represent the cybersecurity body of knowledge as a whole, right? There are overlapping areas, but there are also areas of which there are no overlaps that's present in one and not the other. So this is something that I think the project aims to sort out, right? What are these differences and what are these commonalities, right? So today, it's just a preview. Our project is supposed to be concluded on the 15th of February, so that is the final, that's when we'll give you the results. Today is just a sneak preview of what we have been doing, right, and what directions we are moving forwards towards. So several things. So I'll cover the first one, then Yulia will cover us through the others, right, that we are doing now. So comparisons of focus and aims, all right. So if you look at the contributors towards the CyBOK versus that of the contributors of the ISBOK, of the ISBOK, you'll realize that actually for the ISBOK, right, majority of the contributors comes from the industry. So it's a very industry-driven, how do you call it, body of knowledge. It looks at what the practitioner wants, what the practitioner needs. And the reason for that is because the basis of the BOK stemmed from the skills framework. So it's really about what the industry is looking at, right? So it's very industry dominant. And because it's industry dominant, right, is then very dependent, or it takes a lot of reference to the local or the regional regulations policies, because those are different country to country. Singapore has PDPA. In Europe, yeah, you have GDPR. It's different, right? Whereas for the CyBOK, I think they have, majority of contributors are from the academic line, so they cover a lot of knowledge, right? Really very broad coverage and globally focused. All right, now I'll leave Yulia to talk about the comparison.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a summary of our analysis so far at a very high at a very high level. So you could see color coding there, and similar colors mean similar concepts being represented in both bodies of knowledge. So you could see a lot of similarities, which would be expected. Ultimately, it's the same discipline. It's the differences where we really need to focus on, specifically how, let's say, cryptography is represented in ISBOK and represented by 2 different knowledge areas in CyBOK, but more specifically the white sections in each body of knowledge which are not represented in kind of the counterpart. That's where the interest is. So we go back to our origin. So we examine decisions that CyBOK, for example, made at the very early stages about not integrating physical security. It is present in ISBOK, so we are revisiting our decisions and then examining different areas which are not kind of respectively represented. Stephen, if you move on to the next slide, please. So we go very far kind of deeply into analyzing bodies of knowledge. So we have knowledge tree-based analysis, and you could see once again in similar colors, we highlight the topics which are presented in both documents, but then there are quite a lot of white topics which are not represented. So that's where all the work is and where the challenge lies for us. To compare it, I've mentioned CyBOK mapping reference, so it's a very structured approach. I won't have time to go into details, but it's effectively ensuring transparency and reproducibility of our mapping results to ensure that everyone could check and verify kind of the correctness of our mapping. And maybe very quickly as one example, so the resulting table, so Stephen, if you go on the next slide, please. So we identify keywords and phrases in the document in ISBOK in this instance, and we map them using our strict methodology to particular knowledge areas in CyBOK. Next slide, please. So it just to demonstrate how from ISBOK text we identify concepts. We use CyBOK mapping reference. It's a type of an index. We have various other lookup mechanisms in CyBOK cyborg mapping reference, and that it helps us in a structured, repeatable way to identify relevant knowledge areas. That's a straightforward example. And in the next slide, please. That's more complicated example where we have what we call multi-home concept, and a particular concept could sit within multiple knowledge areas. Then we need to go and look at the context, and it becomes a more complicated process of mapping it. But all going well. Next slide, please. That's the resulting mapping for each of the 22 topics. We have bar chart indicating where majority of the concepts and keywords, how they map onto cyborg knowledge areas. This example is mapping malware topic from ISBOK onto cyborg. Nothing surprising here, so it maps nicely to malware and attack technologies as we would expect. But there are interesting bits, kind of quite a lot of content maps to operating systems, security, for example, and virtualization in cyborg. And when we see these sort of abnormalities or unusual things, then we'll go in depth and explore why that happens. So it's a lot of work. But I think as Stephen mentioned in our How package, and linking back to what the panel said, this is a practical example when we are trying not to reinvent the wheel, but to learn from each other's kind of from the strengths and trying to improve two bodies of knowledge to provide this harmonized underpinning for recognitions of qualifications across the countries.
I think this example is a very good example. Just to simplify it, is that there is a topic called malware in the ISBOK. Right, we are mapping that towards the cyborg body of knowledge. And one thing that's very interesting here is, as what Julia has mentioned, you would expect, let's say, a one-to-one mapping if everything was equivalent, right? But actually it's not, because certain topics that you see within our malware actually appears within another topic, and in quite a major way as well in cyborg. So actually, that's the thing. We don't need to argue about what is the correct structure. But if there's a way that we can do mapping and referencing, then we know actually what we meant by this is covered within operating systems as well as virtualization. We can now also see, because it's not only that, you can also see there are others areas that's been covered. So there's no need for us to say, hey, let's agree to one structure, let's agree to one format, because that will not work. Right? But rather, we can look at where is our commonalities, use a mapping methodology to find the differences, okay, as well as the commonalities as well as the differences. Right, so this is ongoing work, still a lot of work to do. We are one topic down from 22 or 24, so still a long way. So if anybody here, your colleagues, are interested in volunteering and contributing to this project, the ISBOK or the cyborg, please contact us, right? Cyborg is, the ISBOK is totally, the 2.0 is totally from volunteers. Everybody volunteered to create the ISBOK from the industry. So we need more volunteers. So please do that, right? Contact both either the secretariat at AISP or the cyborg, right? And please visit us at our booth, right? We are both there. Right.
So we are both at AISP booth downstairs. So myself and Marius from the cyborg team, so also in the audience if you have any questions.
Very big thank you indeed to Professor Wong as well as Dr. Yulia. Next up, we would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Sebastian Madden, Chief Product Officer at Crest International, up to the stage.
Thank you very much. And as has been said, I'm Sebastian Madden, Chief Product Officer at Crest International, which means that I'm responsible for Crest's work to define, assess, and distinguish cybersecurity professionals and cybersecurity companies around the world. We've already had a number of references to the International Coalition for Cybersecurity Workforces. We are, I think, running somewhat late, so I will move relatively swiftly through the introductory bits and get to the heart of it. From the purposes of the coalition, we were invited to have a look at different efforts around the world to recognize professionals within the cybersecurity profession with two objectives. One, near-term and immediate. How can we move quickly to finding ways to make the cybersecurity workforce more mobile? How can we quickly make it more easy for a cybersecurity professional recognized in one country to move to another? There's a second objective, though, from the work, which is to look and see whether we can't distill from the work to date any key themes, any lessons which will be applicable for any country that is looking to move down the route towards professional recognition. So we heard a lot from the panel about not reinventing the wheel, learning from the experiences of others. So by putting a side-by-side comparison of just two initiatives, one by the government of Dubai and one by the government of the United Kingdom, could we start to find some common features which would act as a bit of a shortcut for a country that's looking to move swiftly to implement its own professional recognition scheme? And perhaps for the benefits of this audience, I'll major more on that second aspect than on the first, because I think that's probably going to be of greater relevance given the shorter time that we have. So, without further ado, why professionalizing cybersecurity workforce matters. I think I won't repeat any of the words on this slide. We have heard it from the panel. And that is why we're all doing it. That's why we're spending time trying to find ways in which we can recognize cybersecurity professionals and promote them to buyers, to employers, and to regulators. We've also talked about some of the different categories involved in professional recognition, ranging from certifications, proving that an individual has passed some kind of exam or taken a course, through to accreditation, recognizing that a provider, whether of a training program or an academic program, actually meets the appropriate standards to deliver, or professionalization itself, where we're talking about something that is a much more structured system with defined roles, with standards of competence, with pathways for entry, and with some kind of an oversight body. We think it is pretty clear, and I think that the panel has brought that out, that in most professions around the world that involve some element of public confidence requiring clear standards, ethical practice, and accountability, professional recognition is where the workforce is going to end up. So you'd have thought that this is, dare I say it, a little bit of a no-brainer. That's probably where the majority of regulators around the world are probably going to end up. And we've heard from the panel about a number of initiatives that are already underway. There are others, which again, I'm not going to read out, but lots of countries starting down the path, some more advanced than others, all starting their own approach to how they are going to trust, recognize, and promote cybersecurity professionals. There are benefits to governments, there are benefits to companies, and of course, there are benefits to the professionals themselves. Again, I'm not going to read out every word on this slide. I think we have heard a lot of that from the panel. But it's not quite the no-brainer it might seem. There are some issues around professional recognition schemes. It can be a matter of some controversy, even with the cybersecurity profession itself, as to whether cybersecurity professionalism is an out-and-out benefit. And again, I think we heard from the panel some of the reasons why people might be a little bit cautious about going down this route. Are we just going to impose a tax on cybersecurity professionals? Are we going to stifle innovation by too prescribed a definition? And I think the answer to both those questions is no. That's not going to happen if we learn from the lessons of those who have already embarked down this route and already solved a number of those problems. If we look at, and I think to coin one of Andrew's phrase, they've done that. That's one off my list. I know how to avoid falling into that problem area. So the work of the coalition, I think, very much is about collecting, again, to coin another phrase, that body of knowledge across implementing countries to say, we've tried that, actually it didn't work quite so well, maybe we were a little bit prescriptive, or maybe it did prove a little bit difficult encouraging take-up. So looking across the different initiatives that have been tried around the world and being able to pull out those experiences. But in order to do that, we thought we'd start with a side-by-side comparison of a couple of the most mature, if I can put it that way, professional recognition schemes that are there in the world. Specifically, Dubai's Cyberforce program, United Kingdom's Cybersecurity Professional Titles Framework, and as we've heard, the work underway here in Singapore to start to look at some of the initiatives that might be tried here. And what was very clear from looking at Dubai and the UK was that there are some very common elements to the professional recognition programs. So as a starting point, we thought a helpful resource for any country, any regulator, any authority around the world that is thinking about initiating a professional recognition scheme would be to look at this framework. So there will be various things that your scheme will need to include. Some under a governance and regulatory heading, some around structure and recognition, some around participation, some around lifecycle and maintenance, and some around costs and accessibility. And what's very interesting is if you look at Dubai and you look at the UK, they have taken some quite different approaches in different areas. And that's really helpful for the rest of us because it means there's already lots of experience around the world which we can learn from. Other organizations can look at the choices that were made. Why did they go down that route? Why did they choose that one? What were the pros? What were the cons? If I want to achieve something, would I be better following this model or that model? And so if we go down to a level of specificity, you can see immediately that in some cases, there are slight differences of nuance. They both have a progressive approach within the disciplines, but in Dubai's case, there are 2 levels. In the UK, there are 3 plus a generic entry level. You can see that in some cases, CPD is a requirement in the UK, whereas in Dubai, CPD is not so much of a requirement. So immediately, clear choices for what path might an organization that is thinking about a professional title scheme going to choose. Once we've moved below the framework level comparison, we can then do a discipline level comparison. So in this case, since both Dubai and the UK have gone down the route of professional recognition for security testers or penetration testers security testers in the UK, penetration testers in the Dubai definition, and incident responders, as they are called under both schemes, you can start to see, again, what the discipline purpose is, what the program entry process is, what the accepted certifications are, where certifications are either required or an additional or voluntary way of showing the achievement of the individual, as well as the assessment method and the assessment types. And once again, we can put the 2 elements side by side, and we can see the areas of similarity. So both of them have a structured process. Both of them acknowledge the value of globally recognized certifications. Both of them have some kind of technical competence assessment, but some areas of difference. So in Dubai, there are some mandatory certifications as the core route to recognition, whereas the UK is typically looking for a more flexible pathway with a mix of formal qualifications, certifications, or assessment of portfolio. Assessment types, where the UK is perhaps more individual-centered, whereas Dubai, in many cases, starts with the employer, who then puts forward their skilled people and whether those skilled individuals have passed the necessary exams. The recognition outcome, in one case, the UK, is a formal professional title complete with post-nominals. In the case of Dubai, it's a Cyberforce certificate that authorizes individuals to practice. So actually quite a different recognition outcome, but we can see choices that have been made, decisions that have been taken by the different authorities in terms of why they choose that particular route. So when we look at the exams themselves, when it came to incident response, the UK does not mandate certifications, whereas in the case of security testing and penetration testing, both Dubai and the UK do mandate. So let's have a look at the certifications that have been mandated. Again, we see some choices that have been made. So Dubai, it's offensive security, JIAC and CREST exams. In the case of the UK, it's CREST and cyber scheme exams. So perhaps we can dive under the hood of that a little bit and understand perhaps what some of the selection criteria were. Was it the mix of tests, so the mix between multiple choice and a practical, or a practical and an interview? Could it have been the duration of the exam? Could it have been something around the proctoring, whether it's in-person proctoring or remote proctoring? Or maybe it was simply a matter of availability. It can be taken in an exam centre around the world, or it can only be taken in a limited number of geographies that might have informed that selection criteria. So again, future authorities embarking down this route can start to take that list and think, well, I can see why they chose that one and not that one. But it also helps certification providers, because then they can see perhaps what the selection criteria was and what changes they might need to make to their certifications in order to become eligible themselves for recognition as a mandatory certification. What we also looked at from the detail of the Dubai and UK comparison was what bridging requirements might be necessary in order to get from one scheme to another. So answering that first immediate exam question that I mentioned, how does a professional working in one jurisdiction quickly convert what they've been issued by that jurisdiction to enable them to work in another jurisdiction? And again, we can see the changes that a UK practitioner might at the moment need to do in order to move to Dubai to operate versus that reverse process. And I think this gives us quite a near-term menu that, should they choose to, the UK and the Dubai government might look at and think, we could maybe take a couple of steps closer to one another if we close those gaps, because we started in slightly different places and for slightly different reasons, but actually, the reason we chose for going down that slightly different route wasn't as important as our now strategic imperative to enable workforce mobility, to address supply or demand issues in our respective programs. So that then tactical menu of things that could be done to bring two schemes closer together, again, provides perhaps a more strategic menu for other countries that are starting to move towards their own professional recognition scheme, because if they can see that the steps that two have to take to move closer to each other, perhaps we don't start quite so far apart in the first place. So if we think about what I might call the more strategic part of the analysis we did, the convergence pathway, what possibly could underpin future harmonization efforts. Certifications seem important, although I would emphasize under the UK model, not always mandatory. But given that they seem to play quite an important role, perhaps let's look at establishing those as a global baseline, not just looking at the current exams, but also, as I say, looking at those common essential requirements. Nobody wants a monopoly supplier of exams. You want lots of different exams available in different ways, different formats, different price points, different tuition methods. And in order to do that, let's perhaps be a little bit more transparent about what those common essential requirements are, so other certification providers can move in and say, I've got one. If all I need to do is put it in a Pearson VUE test center, I'll do that, and it's available to everyone around the world. Put it on the list. None of us are interested in having that closed shop. Peer review as a flexible mechanism. I think we heard from some of the panelists. If they've already been recognized somewhere, why do we have to recognize them again? Maybe they haven't ticked every single box on our particular version of the scheme, but surely that can be resolved rather more quickly than making them go into an exam center and take another exam. Surely someone can just look at it and say, they are clearly an experienced professional. So perhaps looking at some of the really good practice emerging from the UK about peer review, portfolio-based assessment, peer interview, whatever the other mechanisms are that can allow you to short-circuit the need for people to take yet more nugatory training courses or exams when they're already operating at the top of their game. And then perhaps finally a sort of a hybrid recognition model, so the middle route where You have certifications possibly as that primary option for your first recognition, your first step onto the universal register that Dr. Bushra put out as the possible aim point. But with the peer review exemptions as a secondary route. And if all countries say, we recognize that both pathways exist, we're not always going to say there has to be an exam. Again, that might make it a bit easier. So perhaps we could move quite quickly to what we're calling a shared minimum role standard. So what that longer list of certifications that are all applicable are, what that additional level of evidence that you might want to look for, and that allows professionals multiple ways to demonstrate their suitability for a role, and could perhaps be a nice practical bridge between what we've called Dubai's certainty and the UK's flexibility. And final point, thinking about all those other authorities out there who are thinking about going down the route of professional title schemes, what would probably be a helpful starting point for them? One, we heard a lot about the essential certifications from me in the previous slide, but that needs to be perhaps not just answered on an individual country basis, but could we have a global view on that, or at least a coalition-wide view on that? Could we have an agreement on the common foundations? I think most people have relied in some degree on the NICE framework as an excellent modular starting point. A lot of people I know are using Sophia as a way of looking at proficiency levels. So perhaps just putting a few of those start points out there and saying, well, don't start somewhere totally different. Start where most other people are starting. Then you'll find it a bit easier to move towards convergence. And that list of accepted certifications. And let's just keep on making that longer and longer as the exam community gets bigger and those certifications get better and more available around the world, because that's going to bring down the cost of them, which is important to all of us. I'm definitely out of time, so I will stop there.
A very big thank you to Mr. Madden for the presentation. And that helps to wrap us up for today's session.